Hey guys, today we're going to talk about the basic operations of fractions, specifically how to add and subtract various fractions, both with the same denominator and without the same denominator. And so, in general, when we're adding fractions, we want to make sure that we first have the same denominator. If a number does not have if our fractions don't have the same denominator, then we need to make some changes in order to ensure that they do have the same denominator before we go about adding or subtracting them. And so, as you can see here in my example, I have 1/4 plus 1/4. So we already have the same denominator, so there's nothing for us to do in terms of changing that, but we want to go ahead and add those fractions together. Now, a lot of people, when they're first coming into learning about fractions, might make the mistake of thinking that we add those denominators together. In fact, we don't do that at all. So many people might be tempted to do something like this, like write 2/8, but that isn't actually what happens. Because remember what our denominator represents. It represents that we have a total of 4 pieces. If we change our denominator, it means that we're changing the total amount of pieces that we have, and that's not actually what's happening. When we're adding fractions together, it means in this example, I have one of my 4 pieces, and then it's like I found another one of my 4 pieces, and I'm just combining those together. So when you think of it that way, then it becomes a lot more apparent real quick in that if I have one of the 4 pieces and then find another one of the 4 pieces, then it actually ends up being 2 of my 4 pieces. So it results in 2/4. So when we're adding or subtracting fractions and they already have the same denominator, then all you need to do is add the top numbers, the numerators together, and that will give you your answer for the problem. But you might be wondering, what do we do if we don't have the same numerator or don't have the same denominator, I mean. So if we don't have the same denominator, let's take, for example, 1/3, and we'll subtract 1/5 from it. So if we don't have the same denominator, then we need to go ahead and change our fractions so that they do have the same denominator. Now, one of the easiest ways to go about doing this is to take your denominator of the opposite number and you're going to multiply the top and the bottom of the opposite number by the denominator of your fraction. So I would multiply the 1 and the 5 from my 1/5 by 3. And that's going to give me 3/15. Now, on the other hand, I need to do the same thing with my 1/5 too and my 1/3 because the 1/3 doesn't have the same denominator as my 3/15 right now, so that needs to change as well. So just like I did with the 1/5, I'm going to go ahead and take the 5 there, and we're going to multiply it times the 1 and the 3. And so that's going to end up giving me 5/15. And we just bring down the sign. We don't do anything like changing it. And so now I have 5/15 minus 3/15. So as you can see here, I'm subtracting instead of adding now. And subtracting works just the same as any subtraction before, and just like adding our fractions together. So we don't change the bottom numbers here. We don't change the 15 at all once they're the same denominator. Instead, we just take note of our numerators and we subtract those. So now we have 5 minus the 3, and that's going to give us 2 out of the 15. So to illustrate this a little bit better, just using an example, like I said with the 1/4 before, remember if I have, let's say, a pizza pie, and I decide to split it up into 4 different parts. So now I have 4 slices of pizza. And so my 1/4 represents one of those slices of pizza. Now, when I want to add another 4th, it's like I took another one of those slices of pizza, or maybe I found a slice, or something like that, and I'm combining them together. So, as you can see in my example, I now have 2 out of the 4 slices of pizza. And same thing goes for subtracting. Let's say if I have 2 of those slices of pizza and I want to subtract one of them, so I want to take one of them away, or perhaps you might get a problem where someone eats a slice of pizza or something like that. So I just do the reverse. And so again, my denominators don't change, the 4's still stay the same, but I'm going to subtract our numerators, and so that would give me 1/4. And so like in our example, it would be as if one of these slices went away and I was just left with the initial slice that I had. So that's basically it for now. This is a general overview of how to add and subtract fractions. In future videos, we'll talk about how to multiply and divide fractions, as well as much more with them. So if you're looking for more tips on how to do math problems, make sure to subscribe to our channel, to our YouTube channel, and make sure to also visit our website and blog at www.striveacademics.com for this and more resources.